Good evening. It's Sunday, May 18th, 2025, and you're tuned into The Grind. I'm Art, and I'm glad you're joining us tonight as we navigate a world that never ceases to surprise and sometimes disturb. Our conversation tonight is as crisp as a late autumn chill, and believe me, the news standing by is anything but predictable. I always say that in these times, every headline is a reminder that our reality is one wild ride. First up, we travel to the fallout of failed World War III negotiations. Diplomatic talks have crumbled, leaving nations teetering on a dangerous precipice with tensions rising and an arms race ramping up faster than most of us care to count. It's the kind of story that makes you pause mid-coffee, thinking about those late-night debates where nothing seems certain. Then we'll dig into the looming threat of solar maximum. As our sun reaches its peak, memories of the 1859 Carrington event remind us how a burst of solar fury can wreak havoc on our satellites, power grids, and communication lines. And finally, we cap off tonight's run with CERN's latest breakthrough. New exotic particles are challenging our understanding of physics, stirring both wonder and anxiety in the scientific community as we face a frontier where promise and peril intermingle. Every one of these stories paints a picture of a world in flux, a puzzle with pieces that just don't seem to fit together neatly. Whether you're a night owl in a bustling city or a quiet soul seeking clarity in tumultuous times, tonight's lineup invites you to sit back and question the status quo. Let's get to it. Our first story starts now. Peace talks ended with a flatline. Day 13 of the Vienna reset saw abrupt walkouts that left translators still wearing headsets as delegations vanished. Official communiques cite irreconcilable security demands. Leaked notes, however, show Russia wanted permanent control of occupied borderlands and exemption from war crime tribunals. NATO offered phased troop withdrawals with satellite verification. An EU aide noted 3 bullet points on a whiteboard: reparations, a demilitarized zone, and a tribunal veto. The UN envoy Inger Jacobsen told Reuters, "We don't have a stalemate, we have negative momentum." A Pentagon brief stated, "The absence of a deal becomes the policy. Each collapsed round pushes settings toward escalation. Fallback positions now involve hardware rather than handshakes." Global defense spending proposals rose by $84 billion in 6 weeks. Germany approved an extra $12.5 billion for its Zeitenwende fund to buy Leopard 3 prototypes and Patriot batteries. The U.S. House passed the Rapid Arsenal Act, approving $20 billion for hypersonic glide vehicles in a 27-minute debate. China stated in the People's Daily that security environments and deterrence evolve faster. On the cyber front, Microsoft's Threat Lab reported a 59% jump in state-sponsored intrusions, and NATO's Cooperative Cyber Center warned of digital sabotage as a deniable first strike. Escalation now can happen with mouse clicks, not missiles. Geography sharpens the anxiety. In Eastern Europe, the Suwalki Gap, a 65-kilometer corridor between Poland and Lithuania, has generals scanning windows. Satellite imagery from Maxar shows 2 new S-400 air defense batteries in Kaliningrad and a pontoon bridge under construction across the Niemen River. Latvian Foreign Minister Baiba Schulz said on TV3 that a training exercise that close is not an exercise. In the Pacific, The Taiwan Strait saw 27 Chinese sorties cross the median line in one afternoon. Japanese F-15s scrambled from Naha shadowed the aircraft. The U.S. Navy destroyer USS Chung-hoon reported a near miss when a PLA frigate came within 150 yards. Australia fast-tracked its AUKUS submarine timeline by 2 years. Prime Minister Ellison quipped, "Better late than radioactive." The civilian psyche feels the tension. Edelman's trust barometer recorded its steepest single-year drop. Government trust fell by 9 points and media trust by 12. A survival supply retailer, Ready, Set, Go, sold more freeze-dried food in August than in all of 2021. Its bestseller is a 12-month bundle weighing 840 pounds called The Optimist. Google Trends shows searches for Faraday cage DIY up 310% and for Geiger counter-calibration up 180%. Defense ETFs outperform the S&P by 17% year-to-date, while international travel stocks lag behind. Society now quietly votes no confidence in diplomacy as it stores beans and buys night vision goggles. At 2 in the morning, the playbook is clear. Negotiations stall, arsenals swell, and proxy sparks fly while public nerves fray. We have seen similar scripts in 1914, 1939, and during the Cold War. Today, missiles cross oceans in minutes, code bypasses firewalls in seconds, and rumors spread before breakfast. The margin for miscalculation shrinks to smartphone lag. Historian Margaret Macmillan told the BBC, "Accidents start wars, but attitudes end them." Up next, we will untangle the merger between a data broker and a genome lab, and why your breakfast DNA might soon decide your insurance premium. Invisible lightning can fry a continent with no thunder required. A nuclear device detonated 200 to 400 kilometers above the surface does not scorch cities. It weaponizes electrons. Gamma rays burst from the fireball. They strike atoms in the upper atmosphere and eject high-energy electrons that follow Earth's magnetic field. Physicists call this the Compton effect. In short, it produces an electromagnetic pulse with 3 cascading components. E1 is the quick jab. It spikes above 50,000 volts per meter and can punch through unshielded circuit boards like a nail in tinfoil. E2 mimics a lightning strike. Surge protectors may shrug it off, though many would already be reduced to molten slag. E3 lasts up to 1 minute and induces currents that overheat copper windings in extra-high voltage transformers. As Dr. William Graham warned, lose a couple hundred of those and you black out the continent for a year. On July 9th, 1962, the United States tested Starfish Prime at 400 kilometers above the Pacific. Honolulu streetlights failed and communications were disrupted. A solar storm in 1989 tripped Hydro-Quebec's grid in 90 seconds, leaving 6 million Canadians in darkness. In 2017, North Korea tested a missile that reached 4,500 kilometers in apogee. America relies on about 2,000 extra high-voltage transformers. Nearly 70% of them have exceeded 30 years of age. The Congressional Research Service notes that only 3 domestic factories can build replacements, each producing about 10 units a year. An E3 pulse can inject up to 90 amps per kilometer into transmission lines. This surge is enough to melt aluminum spacers and drop conductors on the road. Cascading blackouts occur in milliseconds, faster than human dispatchers can blink. Former FEMA administrator Brock Long stated, "One bad week without power is all it takes for society to unravel." Some measures are in place, though they fall short. Executive Order 13865 directs agencies to identify, prioritize, and protect critical infrastructure from EMP. The Department of Energy has funded shielded control houses, concrete Faraday cages, for 50 substations. The Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnership offers utilities cost sharing to install devices that block geomagnetic currents. The Air Force has hardened missile warning radars by enclosing them in nested steel mesh. Consumers can buy Faraday bags for laptops, but shielding a home breaker panel may run to around $2,000. Resilience remains a patchwork solution, like Kevlar on one knee of a torn suit. A 50-kiloton device detonated at 400 kilometers over St. Louis could blanket both coasts with dangerous field strengths. Senator Angus King warned, "We have effectively built a glass America and keep hoping no one throws a stone." The grid is a cathedral of copper and silicon built for cost, not combat. Hardening it requires money, political will, and the steady work of engineers who swap fuses rather than fire slogans. Up next, we will examine the biometric handshake your smartphone offered a fast food chain. The sun revs like a biker at a red light. Every 11 years, its magnetic field flips and flings hot shrapnel at Earth. NASA's solar cycle. 25 prediction panel now expects peak activity by mid-2025. The NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center noted that solar flux is at levels unseen since 2002. Dr. Scott McIntosh told Science, "This cycle is racing ahead of schedule. Coronal mass ejections are space grenades of magnetized plasma. They travel between 1 and 3 million kilometers per hour. When a CME hits Earth, it compresses our magnetic shield and stretches it into a long tail. That tail snaps like a rubber band and dumps charged particles into the ionosphere. These currents snake along power lines and upset satellites that guide your phone." The Carrington event of 1859 still casts a long shadow. British astronomer Richard Carrington watched a solar flare through a filtered telescope and almost singed his mustache. Telegraph operators in Boston and Paris saw sparks and electric fires on their wires. Auroras glowed red in Cuba and blue-green over Queensland. Researchers at Lloyd's of London estimate a Carrington-class storm today could cost $2,600,000 in its first year. In the Rockies, gold miners thought dawn had arrived at 1 a.m. Utilities now install blockers against geomagnetically induced currents. Manitoba Hydro cut dangerous current flow by 85% during a test storm in 2021. North America still relies on about 2,000 extra high-voltage transformers, most of which are older than 30 years. FEMA's grid report said spare capacity remains insufficient for extreme space weather events. Satellite operators face heavy expenses. One engineer at SES quipped, "Launch weight is billed by the kilogram, and risk is billed by press release. You do not need a bunker to be prepared. Keep a hand-crank radio, as shortwave signals bounce well off a disturbed ionosphere. Print out important phone numbers because cloud contacts depend on electricity. Use surge protectors for appliances, as spoiled insulin and failed Wi-Fi can be deadly. Dr. Tamitha Skov, the space weather expert, reminds us that our star is predictable chaos. Our technology grows while the sun remains the same. Up next, we will dig into the rise of AI-generated kidnapping scams. Solar gusts stir the sky. Do they also rattle the ground? A chorus of headlines says maybe, when a coronal mass ejection slams Earth's magnetosphere. Geomagnetic indices spike. Earthquake catalogs show a small bump in magnitude 5 and above, quakes within the next 24 to 48 hours. Researchers at the University of Tokyo sifted 40 years of records. They reported a statistically significant 3.4% rise in moderate quakes during a 2-day window after major geomagnetic storms. A 2021 report in Scientific Reports traced 6 of the 10 largest quakes since 1990 to weeks with high solar wind pressure. The author stated, "The temporal clustering exceeds random expectation. One hypothesis is electromagnetic induction. During geomagnetic storms, charged currents seep into Earth's crust and alter regional stress fields to nudge faults on the brink." Dr. Dolores Knudsen from Caltech said, "Think of a fault as fingers poised on a snap. A millipascal here, a millipascal there, can decide when it pops." Another theory involves piezoelectric minerals. Quartz in bedrock may emit microcurrents under changing magnetic fields. Russian geophysicist Sergei Pulin showed that granite blocks laced with quartz slipped 8% sooner when exposed to oscillating fields similar to geomagnetic storm frequencies. Skeptics wave well-sharpened spreadsheets. The USGS maintains that no proven causal link exists. They note that random rearrangement of quake times reveals clusters due to human pattern spotting. Statistician Grace Kim ran a Monte Carlo simulation and found that changes in bin sizes dissolved the 3.4% rise into statistical fog. She summed it up on Twitter. "Correlation that can't survive new bins isn't correlation." Geologist Lucy Jones reminds us, "Tectonics is friction, not Wi-Fi. Rocks move when plates push hard enough, not when the aurora dances." The mismatched latitudes of solar storms and quake-prone faults also cast doubt on a link. Preparedness officials take note even of weak predictors. The Japanese Meteorological Agency quietly integrates space weather alerts into quake risk dashboards, and FEMA and the European Space Agency are examining solar wind forecasts for any useful signal. In regions like Cascadia and Istanbul, emergency managers add geomagnetic storm follow-up to drill calendars. For the rest of us, the advice remains the same: secure shelves, store water, and no escape routes. As Dr. Knudsen joked, prepare for earthquakes because they happen, not because the aurora told you secrets. Up next, we will dig into the microchip shortage's newest scapegoat: dishwashers that tweet their own maintenance logs. Silence on the Richter scale can sound like a ticking bomb. For context, the U.S. Geological Survey logs an average of 1 magnitude 8 quake every 12 to 18 months. Yet no quake greater than magnitude 8 has shaken the planet since the 8.2 Alaska quake on July 29, 2021. Seismologists call this irregularity an anomaly rather than a miracle because tectonic plates do not take vacations. They accumulate strain over time. Dr. Gavin Hayes at the USGS told the Associated Press, "Energy deferred is energy stored." Imagine a pressure cooker that never whistles even while its flame remains constant. A sprawling coronal hole now spans the sun's southern hemisphere. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory flagged the feature on Sunday. It covers about 550,000 square miles, roughly twice the area of Mexico. The hole is spewing solar wind at 700 kilometers per second, and NOAA has issued a G2 geomagnetic storm watch for tomorrow. Dr. Tamitha Skov remarked, "This is the most stable southern coronal hole I have seen since 2014. Some Reddit users have noted a possible connection to past seismic events. Historical records offer suggestive details. Chinese chronicles mention bright auroras at 34 degrees latitude before the 1700 Cascadia quake. The 1964 Alaska quake followed a G3 disturbance recorded at a magnetometer in College, Alaska. Japanese fishermen diaries describe glowing skies in February 1896, 4 months before the Meiji Sanriku quake. None of these observations has passed rigorous peer review, yet they have influenced policymakers and insurance models. Geology sticks to first principles. Tectonic plates grind at just a few millimeters per year under forces of tens of megapascals, while magnetic storms alter crustal stress by only about 1 kilopascal. Dr. Lucy Jones compared the effect by saying, "That's like blaming a car wreck on a gnat hitting the windshield. Strain may be released gradually in slow slip events, as seen on New Zealand's Haikurangi Margin, which experienced a 14-month slow quake equivalent to a magnitude 7 event. Offshore tremors, too, may relieve stress in increments too small to grab headlines. The risk scoreboard remains unforgiving. When a true mega-quake strikes, our global supply chain amplifies the damage. Fiber optic cables cross subduction zones, and port disruptions can stall manufacturing from Detroit to Dusseldorf. Coastal nuclear plants rely on grid power for their cooling pumps. A Cascadia 9.0 quake could displace 1 million residents and cost billions to rebuild infrastructure. In quieter moments, the recommended to-do list is simple. Secure your water heater, pack a go bag, keep cash and prescriptions ready, and review tsunami evacuation routes. As Dr. Hayes advised, predict strain, not dates. Up next, we will dissect the brand new insect-based protein law in Europe and why your next airplane snack might crawl before it crunches. Gothic spires soared, plumbing stayed firmly medieval. Walk through any European cathedral and you will see flying buttresses, stained glass windows, and not a single toilet. A 2022 survey by Historic England mapped 76 major cathedrals. Only 2, Durham and Canterbury, show firm traces of internal waste shafts. In contrast, castles bristled with garderobes. Narrow stone closets cantilevered over the moat let waste fall away. Dover Castle lists 48 chutes in its 13th century walls. Professor John Hines told the BBC, "Defense justified any smell, worship did not." This meant siege values trumped sanctity. Cathedrals had options, though not within earshot of the nave. Most were ringed by cloisters that led to a separate latrine block called a reredorter. At Westminster Abbey, monks crossed a covered bridge to a 2-story privy by the Tyburn stream. Waste flushed naturally while the choir remained unbothered. Records from York Minster mention payments in 1318 to night soil men who carted buckets from a wooden hut. External pits were cheap and kept bodily functions outside sacred spaces. Building walls bore heavy loads. Carving vertical shafts risked structural cracks. Builders chose to offload human waste rather than jeopardize stone buttresses. Medieval canonists regarded human waste as unclean, a reminder of original sin. The rule of Saint Benedict, revised in 816, orders monks to visit the latrine in silence and haste, and to wash before re-entering the cloister. Pilgrims at Chartres and Cologne expected discomfort as part of penance. Long echoing choirs amplified Gregorian chants while carrying any gurgles unwanted at Vespers. Paris historian Elodie Klein observed, "A pipe can be both hydraulic and theological." Some researchers claim that missing toilets prove cathedral interiors were once tuned as resonance chambers that would be dampened by plumbing. They note a 111 Hz note in many choir vaults and point to carved bosses shaped like organ pipes. Acoustic engineer Trevor Cox counters that the same frequencies appear in concert halls that host restrooms, saying, "Sound waves aren't allergic to plumbing." Others argue that medieval builders recalling Roman flush latrines simply forgot the trick. In medieval Europe, cosmetic grandeur eclipsed practical sanitation. Today we allocate billions for data centers and debate fixing storm-leaking sewers. A missing restroom in a 13th century transept is a stone-carved memo. Priorities shape skylines and sanitation. Up next, we'll tally the true carbon cost of streaming that 6-hour cozy fire video you leave on for ambience. Bones that rattle under the northern lights. Nothing like bedtime stories from the Arctic. Long before Instagram made eerie silhouettes trendy, Cree elders told of the Chenu, a once human skeleton glazed in ice. The creature was driven by hunger so fierce it stripped off its own flesh. West of there, Dan legends speak of Genway, the bony walker who whistles through empty ribs. Library and Archives, Canada records 42 variants of skeleton tales collected between 1907 and 1983 by missionary linguist Émile Petitot. The legends share bones animated with missing eyes and a heart colder than the snow. Dr. Heather Igloliorte, an Inuk art historian, described them as cautionary avatars of starvation that warned when community bonds snap. This stark imagery turned bone demons into tools for survival and sharing scarce seal meat. The harsh climate and a vivid sky added drama. Winters above the 60th parallel bring -40-degree air that freezes breath into ghostly plumes. A 2018 University of Manitoba study found that geomagnetic storms boost aurora brightness, by up to 60%, especially in oxygen-rich greens. In January 1921, Hudson Bay Company clerk Harold Mackay wrote that he saw bones walking the tree line, lit from within like lantern ribs. Historians think moonlight and hoarfrost on spruce trees created that eerie effect. These myths did more than scare. They acted as survival manuals. Among the Salto, the spirit Pakatikwe haunts those who hoard the final fish of winter. Anthropologist Faith Howe noted, "These stories are governance systems dressed as ghosts. Elders claim that when the aurora crackles, it is the bones sharpening their spears, a warning to check your snares before frostbite strikes." The sharp, snapping sounds of exposed joints in the cold helped imprint life-saving rules. Today, skeleton spirits have found new life on Wi-Fi. The podcast Bone Walkers earned 2.3 million downloads since 2021 by blending traditional dialogue with synthwave tracks. Boom Studios released Aurora Bones last fall, a comic where neon skulls patrol Nunavut. Tourism Yukon ran a spot showing a skeleton shimmer under auroras with the tagline, "Face your fears, then warm up in Whitehorse." Indigenous filmmaker Asia Tagalik said, "We are not goosebumps for grown-ups. These stories still guard real cultural values." Their tales now include safety tips on reading ice, layering clothes, and signaling rescue planes. Up next, we will slice into the supply chain mystery of why every grocery store suddenly stocks 14 brands of pickled seaweed, but no tortillas. When algorithms dream, reality picks up the bar tab. Artificial make-believe sometimes takes center stage. Last May, a New York lawyer asked ChatGPT for legal precedents. It confidently produced Martinez versus Delta Airlines and Varghese versus China Southern. These cases never existed. The judge fined the firm $5,000 and wrote, 6 fictional opinions were submitted in bad faith. In February, Google's Bard claimed that the James Webb Space Telescope took the first pictures of an exoplanet. In truth, Chile's VLT earned that honor in 2004, and Alphabet's market cap shed $100 billion in one afternoon. Image generators also produce bizarre results. Midjourney rendered Pope Francis wearing a white Balenciaga puffer jacket. Millions were fooled until the creator admitted, "I just typed drip Pope." Even self-driving software stumbles. A Tesla on FSD beta once labeled a crescent moon as a yellow traffic light. It tried to brake on an empty Wyoming highway. The common flaw is statistical overconfidence wrapped in a polite tone. The machine lacks a gut. It cannot sense the dread we feel when its answers sound perfect, yet feel hollow. What makes this hollow accuracy so unsettling? The answer lies in the uncanny valley. Japanese roboticist Masahiro Mori first mapped this curve in 1970. Empathy rises as things look more human until they are almost, but not quite, acceptable. Digital language models live in that trough. They offer flawless grammar and pepper in jokes. They even cite research. Yet they might claim, for instance, that Bolivia borders the Atlantic. Dr. Kate Darling from the MIT Media Lab warned Wired, "When the syntax is flawless, we drop our guard. So any glitch feels like gaslighting. Our instincts are tuned to notice small cues in fellow humans, cues that an AI avatar simply lacks. The result feels like witnessing your reflection blink out of sync. Before we roast silicon, recall that humans hallucinate too. Our brains fill in missing details every second. Neuroscientist Anil Seth calls perception a controlled hallucination, guided by prediction. We confabulate after blackouts and recall movie lines that never existed. This fallibility reveals our evolutionary humility. We usually question memories that stretch our credibility. In contrast, machines have no governor. Language models predict the next token based on probability. When the token ranked highest is wrong, they persist with unwavering confidence. Psychologists call this memory blindness, while AI researchers term it hallucination. Both systems favor coherence over accuracy. The situation drags us into a trust quagmire. McKinsey estimates that generative AI could add $4 trillion to the global economy. Gartner predicts that up to 70% of knowledge workers will chat with hallucinating models daily by 2026. Regulators are uneasy. The European Union's AI Act now requires verifiable provenance for high-risk systems. NASA prohibits unverified AI output in flight documents. OpenAI has introduced plugins that fetch live data to reduce fabrication, though the fine print admits no plugin covers every query. Insurance firms sense opportunity. Swiss Re now offers a liability policy for AI-generated misinformation. In boardrooms, the new mantra is trust but verify, then screenshot. The irony is clear. We built tools to ease tedium, but now must fact-check them relentlessly. As Dr. Darling put it, AI confidence is a shiny sports car with cardboard brakes. It is fun to ride and dangerous downhill. Up next, we'll dig into the economics of why pickleball courts sprout faster than affordable housing. Gothic furballs cracking dirty jokes make midnight TV as it ought to be. Dark Night of the Ejaculatron is Transylvania Television's Season 3 Halloween special. Season numbers feel irrelevant when the cast is foam rubber, stitched together like Frankenstein on a Red Bull bender. The plot follows furry J. Ackermonster, a purple, snaggle-toothed archivist who accidentally powers up a Victorian love machine fueled by ectoplasmic enthusiasm. Think Hammer horror by way of The Muppet Show after the censors quit. Running time, 22 minutes. Body count, 0 humans, 3 lace doilies, 1 dignity. The Minneapolis team calls it Frankenstein meets Fozzie with a splash of South Park, a slogan whispered to DVD buyers at Comic-Con 2010. Art director Gordon Smooter says, "We wanted to answer the question, what if Sesame Street grew up in a coffin?" The first gag features a vampire puppet filing his own fangs on a belt sander while humming the Sesame Street theme. Behind the felt is an indie shop, punching above its stitch weight. The main workshop lives in a converted grain silo near St. Paul, with walls plastered with torn Vogue pages for costume inspiration. 15 puppeteers rotate through 41 hand-built characters, each with LED eyes wired to cheap RC transmitters for record scratch blinks. The materials budget per episode is $600, half of which buys hot glue sticks by the kilo. The Ejaculatron's gearbox is driven by a repurposed KitchenAid dough hook. It is synced to a DMX lighting board, so the pistons glow to the beat. Gordon Smooter brags, Our monster cost us $80 and some marital goodwill, but on camera it looks like Guillermo del Toro's estranged cousin. The National Puppetry Guild agrees. They awarded the crew a citation of creativity in 2019, the same year Disney spent $15 million animating Baby Yoda's ear twitches. Scale is relative. Satire drives the felt freaks as they target media fear-mongering. The villain is not the ejaculatron. It is the late-night news anchor, Countess Clickbait, who milks panic for ad revenue. Her chyron screams sex robot apocalypse while she sells silver-stitched garlic masks on the side. Co-writer Mary Jo Pale of Mystery Science Theater fame says the script riffs on the endless loop of broadcasters hyping monster myths before pivoting to mattress ads. One skit shows a werewolf puppet howling into a ring light for his unboxing channel. He censors himself because silver bullets violate YouTube's firearm policy. A fact-checker mummy unravels while scrolling corrections until she is nothing but a skull and a Wi-Fi router. It is a fur-lined mirror, absurd, yet not inaccurate. Cult status followed a breadcrumb trail from late-night cable in 2008 to viral bootlegs on Daily Motion and dorm room DVD screenings. Streaming breathed new life when Shudder licensed the back catalog last October and reported a 143% spike in comedy horror view time. Kickstarter backers pitched an $85,000 for HD remasters, dwarfing the original pilot's $2,000 camcorder budget. Fan conventions now host Transylvania TV karaoke, where cosplayers belt power ballads about necromantic performance anxiety. The Puppets tour too. Last spring, they headlined Montreal's Festival Spasm, performing live lip-sync while a drummer triggered fart noises with a floor tom. Tickets sold out in 10 minutes, and scalpers got 30 apiece. Netflix reportedly sniffed around, but wanted a PG-13 cut. The producers declined, stating, "We refuse to defang our vampires." Irreverence still finds oxygen in an algorithmic landscape that favors safe content. Dark Night of the Ejaculatron won't cure insomnia, but skewers formulaic horror, clickbait media, and the pretension that adults do not giggle at anatomically inaccurate monsters. It does so with tangible craft, thumbprints in latex, seams that admit sunlight when backlit, and puppeteers sweating under black hoods. The show reminds viewers that imagination beats render farms when the budget is beer money. As Furry J. Ackermonster croons at the end, "The world's a stage where strings and springs just laugh before the coffin lid slams. Cheap wisdom, richly stuffed." Up next, we'll pry open the urban planning riddle of why every new micro apartment smells faintly of cucumber. Smallest particles, biggest goosebumps. Strap in. CERN's press room rarely sees Hollywood drama, but last week the Large Hadron Collider produced a new pentaquark at 4,387 mega-electron volts. This 5-quark state appears where textbooks allow only 3. CERN also spotted 2 tetraquarks. One of them, called TCC+, is the first hadron with double charm and no strange quark. It has a mass of 3,875 mega-electron volts and a lifetime 12 times longer than any earlier exotic state. Scientists measured these properties with impressive precision. Spokesperson Dr. Chris Parks deadpanned, "We're expanding the periodic table of the subatomic." New building blocks, like fresh Lego pieces, have arrived. These discoveries challenge conventional wisdom and refresh decades-old theories. Researchers now have more material to refine models of matter. The experimental techniques have improved, enabling subtle signals to rise above the noise. Each collision in the detector is a glimpse into the fabric of the universe. Collisions at CERN are not routine. They are a hunt for surprises. Every measurement brings us closer to understanding the forces that hold matter together. This progress fuels both excitement and healthy skepticism. Why does a blip on a detector matter? The standard model predicts only 3 quark baryons and 2 quark mesons. Exotic states challenge these ideas and force theorists to rethink old assumptions. Theorist Nima Arkani Hamed tweeted, "Each unexpected hadron is a neon arrow pointing toward the next layer of physics." His words inspire a shift in perspective among the community. Some arrows point toward the dark matter mystery. Multiple models now consider that multi-quark states may serve as portals to an unseen dark sector. Researchers have long searched for clues to why visible matter makes up barely 5% of the cosmos. Recent findings reduce the uncertainty on the strong force coupling, constant by 6%. Every experiment is a step toward a more complete picture. These new particles may help reveal hidden forces that shape the universe. In laboratories around the world, scientists check and recheck their data, trusting only in measured confidence levels. Their work beats back the rush to premature conclusions. Outside Geneva, a British tabloid warned that CERN scientists risked creating a planet-eating black hole. That headline spread like wildfire on social media. TikTok users stitched the phrase into a doom montage set to ominous cello notes. For the record, the collider generates 13 tera-electron volts per proton pair. These energies are impressive for atoms, but insignificant on cosmic scales. Cosmic rays strike Earth at 10 to the power of 17 electron volts each day, and the planet still spins. In 2008, critics claimed that mini black holes could swallow the Earth in 50 months. Federal judges in Hawaii dismissed that lawsuit after careful review. The case reminds us that fear often flourishes on distorted facts. CERN safety chief Dr. John Ellis quipped, "If we could make dangerous black holes, we'd patent them before we panicked." His remark shows that caution and humor can coexist in science. Rigorous safety reports, sometimes over 200 pages long, list many studies that debunk apocalyptic ideas. Transparency in these reports stands in stark contrast to the sensationalism of disinformation mills. Misinformation spreads quickly, yet the evidence remains clear after billions of collisions. Scientists stand by their work and maintain strict safety protocols. The public deserves honest explanations that do not fuel needless panic. Exotic particles do not overthrow the standard model overnight. They poke holes in old ideas and invite improvements. They may help us develop a new theory that unites gravity with quantum mechanics. Such a breakthrough could lead to room temperature superconductors or advanced medical isotopes. Innovations like these might change how we live. Experimental physicist Daniela Bortoleto told Nature, "Discovery is a swing door. Paranoia slams it. Rigor oils the hinges." Her words remind us that scientific progress requires both creativity and discipline. Every bump in the data must reach a 5 sigma confidence level before scientists celebrate a discovery. In contrast, social media often crowns one screenshot as the final word. The careful pace of experimental work stands as an antidote to instant opinions. Science takes time to verify and challenge ideas. We must balance curiosity with caution in our search for truth. As theories evolve and experimental methods improve, our understanding of the universe deepens. Today, quarks continue to dance beneath the soil of the French countryside, while theorists refine their models and the media chases sensational headlines. Up next, we'll dig into why city pigeons are suddenly sporting multicolored leg bands, and whether that makes them art, data points, or both. All right, folks, it's time to close tonight's wild ride. We've ventured from the aftermath of WWW negotiations and a looming EMP apocalypse to the capricious dramas of solar storms shaking our very Earth. We uncovered mysteries like medieval cathedrals, missing toilets, and skeleton spirits haunting Canada's frozen wilds. Even Transylvania Television's satirical puppets tickled our dark sense of humor, and CERN's daring discoveries pushed science to its thrilling edge. Each story carried us a bit closer to understanding the strange and sometimes unsettling truths lurking in the margins of our reality. For those of you burning the midnight oil with me, thank you for your unwavering curiosity and company. Your feedback, whether it's a rating or a thoughtful comment, drives our journey forward. I invite you to drop by unexplained.co for even more in-depth news, podcasts, and extras that expand on tonight's themes and beyond. There is always something to ponder, a question waiting to be asked, and a voice that challenges what we think we know. This shared exploration makes the late hours feel a little less isolated and a lot more intriguing. Reflecting on the kaleidoscope of tonight's revelations, it's remarkable how a single broadcast can transport us from the corridors of high-stakes diplomacy to the eerie stillness of forgotten legends. The narrative of failing peace talks resonated with the tension of global brinkmanship, reminding us that even in our most turbulent hours, history continually shapes our collective destiny. Equally stirring were the scientific forays into phenomena as unpredictable as an EMP strike or solar storm, forces that remind us nature holds endless surprises. And amid the serious, our lighter moments, from the tongue-in-cheek examinations of haunted forests and sanitational mysteries to the absurd puppetry of Transylvania Television, offered a playful counterpoint, illustrating that humor and inquiry can coexist even in the darkest times. In the quiet moments following these revelations, consider the layers of meaning each event offers. The show isn't just a chronicle of shocking headlines. It's a canvas of inquiry painted with history, science, and folklore that intertwine in unexpected ways. Your curiosity is our compass, guiding us deeper into the unknown. Before we part ways tonight, I want to remind you that every comment, every rating, truly matters. It fuels the creativity of this old radio spirit and helps us bring even more curious stories to your ears. Our late-night conversations are not just about news and mysteries. They're about connecting, challenging, and engaging with a community that craves both accuracy and wonder. Your voice is the heartbeat of this show, and it inspires every twist and turn we take in exploring this unpredictable world. Stay curious and stay connected wherever you are. So until then, keep questioning the obvious. Good night.